Hello, and welcome to the lore of Braunhaven. We're going to continue exploring Yeoman's Row today, and uh, we are at the end of Yeoman Street, and you'll find this dock at the end of Yeoman Street. This is known as Yeoman's Dock, and it was originally intended to be a private dock for those that live on Yeoman's Row and those that live and work in the merchant district. Today, it sits mostly empty of traffic, but usually late at night, there are smugglers and traffickers that will use Yeoman's dock in order to bring their goods into the city and kind of try to get past the tariffs that the thieves tariffs in air quotes that the Thieves Guild imposes on those sorts of people. On the northern side of Yeoman's Dock, up here, you will see that there are shipyards, and the shipyards mostly sit empty at this point in time. They are not under use very much because of the fact that uh, there are no there's nobody that is using the imperial port that's building large trade vessels anymore. But about once, maybe twice a year, there will be a wealthy smuggler or pirate or even bandits that will come in and they will spend some money to have dock workers and shipwrights put together a boat for them. And usually this is going to be a uh, a small sailing vessel, something that like a galley that will be able to travel upriver. Other times, very rarely, will it be a good-sized warship. And that's usually for the wealthy pirate that's going to be heading south and east, wanting to uh, ply the trade lanes between here and Erebachia. Possibly some that will be heading, west um, across the Dragon Sea to Orentis. But mostly it's going to be small sailing vessels. And outside of the shipyard, they do have a um, a kind of a notice board that lists all the jobs that are available. And most of the time, it's very little. This is probably, aside from what you see in the Docks District, this is one of the poorer areas. Now, Yeoman Street, this end of Yeoman Street, has a lot of problems, and the shipyards especially have this problem. Is that there's a lot of the Gentil commoners that are from the Cult of the Drowned Child that are making their way up into the Merchant District, and this is kind of their first, um, you could say, foothold on the area. Now, there's not the Thieves Guild and the people of the Merchant District haven't really done much to curtail that activity. And perhaps it might even be too late. The Gentil commoners blend in because the commoners can pass as normal humans, especially if they are wearing cloaks or clothing that will cover up the few telltale signs that you can see on their skin, such as the bluish scales or things of that nature. And they don't just walk in. In some cases, they do, but Yeoman Street, where it meets the docks, or where it meets Dockers Road, is really that's their incoming point because they share a sewage system with the Docks District, and so Dockers Street and Yeoman Street, where they meet up, that is where that sewer system begins, and really. I mean, when you think about a sewer system, you probably think in modern day um, uh, parlance that this it's going somewhere and it's being treated. No, that is not true. It is the sewage system here is getting dumped directly out into the Dragon Sea with sewage pipes that run between the numerous docks all along this coastline here, and so it this area is quite stinky. It is if you can stand the stench and you have nowhere else to go, this is probably where you're going to end up living, especially if you are a mariner that is down on their luck. The honestly, the better place to be is if you could get a boat and uh, go across the small channel here to uh, to the island of Smuggler's Cove. Is probably a better outlook, and that's where a lot of these mariners end up. That's why they become pirates, is because there's not a whole lot to do for shipwrights and dock workers because there's just not much going on, and a lot of the dock workers are are directly hired by the Thieves Guild, and they supplement their income with banditry. So right here, this building is actually can be known as probably the worst inn in pretty much the Glaucian Empire. It is a terrible, terrible place, and it is called McDonald's Inn. And McDonald's, um, they are the one thing that can be said about McDonald's is that they are inexpensive, because most of their food is a little bit moldy. Their wine and ale is of the lowest quality. The interior of the inn is falling apart. There's a joke going that the kitchen, the innkeeper and the kitchen, any kitchen staff actually get fresh mushrooms growing right off the walls in the inn. The place is terrible. You can expect to pay only a quarter of the list price that you would anywhere else. Now, upstairs, they do have on the second floor. They have a number of inns or a number of inn rooms, with the last being a communal room that can sleep. You know, they've got 5 beds in there, um, but there's room. A you could throw out a bedroll on the floor. And it is the only room that actually has its own fireplace. There is a fireplace that in the hallway that keeps pretty much the second floor warm. And when you're staying there, you may have to fight the insects, the roaches, for your bed. And there have been people that have been attacked by the roaches, and so it's just a really terrible, terrible place to stay. Um, but they are known throughout the area because of how terrible the inn is. And McDonald's Inn, it is not owned by anybody named McDonald. It was originally, probably at some point in the distant past, but today the inn has changed hands numerous times. Not that anybody really pays money to end up with McDonald's Inn, but usually it will be the deed to the property will be traded via a gambling match, or used to pay a debt. But nobody who ends up with that deed is really excited about getting it. I mean, I suppose if you were to, fix the place up, it might actually make for a decent inn, or even a base of operations, perhaps for those that are of the adventuring type, or those that are operating on a thin budget. But most people would agree that the best way of it, once you get the deed to the property, is to simply light a match and then rebuild on the property because the place is just so bad. That's probably the only way that you're going to get rid of the insect infestation. Now, there is another building that is right on the water, And this is a location called Deaver's Salvage. And Deaver's Salvage is run by a gnome named Deaver Martin. And he goes out and he actually uh, goes and hits the shipwrecks of the sunken vessels in the bay, around the bar of the Great River, and in the bay itself. And that's how he makes his money. He goes out and he collects whatever treasure was found there and brings it back. Now he does have in order to facilitate this, he does have an apparatus of the crab, and he uses that to go down and crawl around on the ocean floor. He also has a number of inventions that allow for one, their dive suits, that allows for one to go out and walk on the ocean floor. Now, those inventions are not really they're not really the best, and he will tell anybody that asks that if you want to use one, be aware that they are prototypes, and that you know you're you're taking your life into your own hands. But his big dream, and he hasn't been able to find it yet, is finding a ship called the Maiden of the River, and it was a war galley that sank in the bay. And the problem is, the reason why you can't find it is all that sewer runoff that is getting dumped into the ocean there has caused the water is cloudy, quite disgusting, and there is um, a cross pollination, I guess you could say, of some of the sewer plant life and the ocean plant life have kind of mixed together to create some very strange oddities in the area. And he can't go down there for that long, but he is interested in hiring some adventurers and he would loan them the apparatus of the crab as well as his experimental dive suits to go and find the maiden, and he would be willing to even come up with a split of the treasure, or perhaps take only a share of the treasure that is found, because it is said that the maiden was carrying a very vast treasure. It had just pillaged uh, a town and a couple of other ships, so it is well loaded with loot, and he would be perfectly willing to share some of it because he believes there is more than enough to go around. So that is our episode for today. Next week, we will be looking at the High District and all of the things that go on in the wealthy to do part of town. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.